Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
We'd like to thank Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine open now through December, featuring great racing, including the King's Plate coming up in August, Turf Champions Day with the Woodbine Mile in September, and much, much more. Woodbine Racing, great racing north of the border. Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America. I'm Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. Back in the studio on a Sunday morning. Yesterday afternoon, we were at Cleats up in the Whitesboro, Utica area. A nice crowd there, always a nice crowd. They have a good group of people out there. We were reminiscing. Shannon Donovan from the marketing department was there, as was Anthony Probst behind the camera. But Shannon was remembering back in the day, we had the Battle of the Branches, which was kind of a fun promotion that featured handicappers at the various branches from OTB in kind of a playoff format. And Cleats won. And I think Shannon said Cleats won a couple of times. So a sharp group of people out there, and a couple of Sharpies played in our contest that we do on Fan Appreciation Days. The winner of the contest gets a $75 bet. The person who finished second gets a $25 bet. The winner put his $75. I think it was the 8th at Belmont at the Big A. He put it on the eventual winner, and the $25 bet had a place or a show bet on the horse that ran second. But the upshot was both of our players collected on their bets, and so had a little extra something on the day, a little extra cash, courtesy of Capital OTB, and it was a fun day out there. Fan Appreciation Day is always a lot of fun. Hopefully you enjoyed the cut-ins we had throughout the afternoon. So again, thanks to everybody out at Cleats for making for a fun Saturday afternoon. Sunday afternoon means football. You can come down to the Clubhouse Racebook and enjoy football action and our food vendor, Black Bear, watch the games, and you can also catch, obviously, racing action and have a little extra fun on Sundays here at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue. And speaking of NFL football, the inaugural edition of League Lockdown with our man Anthony Probst, who is out behind the camera out at Cleats yesterday, but typically in the control room. But you won't find a bigger NFL fan, and he's going to have his inaugural edition of League Lockdown, which is going to air towards the end of the show, looking at some of the action this afternoon. And if he kind of favors thoughts on the Ravens, I'm surprised he said he's covering the whole league, because he is a major Ravens fan. And so, as I say, they may get a little extra time. But again, that'll be towards the end of the show. We'll plug in League Lockdown, the inaugural edition. Also want to alert everyone that Wednesday entries will open for the Breeders' Cup Bankroll. Steve Bick going to have some dough to play on behalf of the bankroll team over the Friday and Saturday of the Breeders' Cup. And the bankroll team will open up at capitalotb.com on Wednesday. While that's up, you can keep that up. While that's up, I will say you can reserve your seat. And Shannon told me there were still a few seats available. So you still have your chance to reserve a seat for Breeders' Cup Saturday here at the Clubhouse Racebook. If you'd like to do that, stop by and make your reservation. All right, let's jump into the action from yesterday. Again, it was a fun stakes day yesterday. As we, approach the Breeders' Cup right around the corner, the action has slowed down a little bit stakes-wise, but it was still a fun day yesterday. The 2 3-year-old stakes at Keeneland were fun. We had the Far Hills Steeplechase meet, which is always a lot of fun, and that included the Grade 1 Grand National. But at Belmont at the Big A, it was a starter allowance day throughout the card, as it was kind of the day may have a name, I think, but it is essentially a local claiming crown kind of thing. So it's starter allowances for horses that have started during the year at a certain price, and that was most of the day. That was all of the day, I think, other than the Sands Point, the stakes race on the afternoon. Sands Point yesterday, Grade 2 event for 3-year-old fillies on the grass. I took a little shot with Pretty Picture, the 6-horse in here, lightly raced, and you can see kind of making a late run, is going to get up for third with a decent late run in only the third start. The logical player, though, was the number 5, Ready for Candy. Fast Market, the number 2, ran second. And again, my pick there, Pretty Picture, ran third. But Ready for Candy, again, was the logical. Went off at $1.19 to the dollar, paid $4.38. And this one was kind of interesting. If you look at the PPs, you can see the horse had been racing up at Woodbine and then changed barns. Well, also changed ownership because, as you can see, as part of the past performances, was purchased at Fasig-Tipton in February of this year for $400,000. Since that purchase, for the new connections, 3 for 3. So a nice buy for the folks that have picked up Ready for Candy. You know, being a 3-year-old filly, there is you would expect a broodmare career in the offing, and now has a couple of graded stakes victories. The Grade 3 Winter Memories last time, and yesterday the Grade 2 Sands Point. Next up, maybe another graded stakes race, the Grade 3 Pebbles at Aqueduct on November 16th. That's a possible that was listed by the connections after the race yesterday. Or maybe they tried Grade 1 company in the American Oaks. That to me seems like kind of a logical spot. Try to get a Grade 1 on your resume for a 3-year-old filly who now looks very good on the turf. They also said they might just wait till next year. That's possible as well for the 4-year-old season. So they may come out of this and go to the sidelines. But again, the late December American Oak, Grade 1 American Oaks is a little bit interesting as well. So we'll see what's up next for Ready for Candy. But it was a nice performance yesterday. And again, Pretty Picture, Chad Brown runner that I used on top. Nice late run to be third. That one probably has a nice future also. First couple of starts of the career, Monmouth on the turf broke the maiden in the career debut, and then an off the turfer at Monmouth won that one. And then third career start, again, it was a nice late run. It was just a little bit too late, but ran third. Fast Market, the horse that ran second, John Terranova trainee that had broken the maiden in the previous start. So that may be one that is kind of, figured it out. Took 9 starts to break the maiden and figure it out, but then first start after the maiden, they tried Stakes Company and put in a pretty good second yesterday. It was, a neck between first and second. So really all 3 of the top finishers in there, probably worth watching going forward. Ready for Candy winner, Fast Market, and Pretty Picture as well. And again, interesting story there with the purchase out of the, the early part of the career up at Woodbine. And then going 3 for 3 subsequently. So again, as I say, a clever auction buy there for the connections. All right, let's go over to Keeneland. And as I noted, there were 2 nice stakes races for the 3-year-olds, 3-year-old boys, 3-year-old girls. We kicked things off with the 3-year-old boys in the Perryville. I like Captain Cook. Betting public like Captain Cook as well at 4 to 5. I wasn't sure what to do with Barnes. I eventually went with Barnes right underneath. I thought Taylor's version was maybe a little bit interesting from Dale Romans, but it does wind up to be Barnes pretty convincingly in here. So my top 2 flip-flopped in the scratch-reduced 5-horse field, so you didn't wind up with much of an exacta or anything, but you did wind up with a nice performance from Barnes, kind of living up to what the early portion of the career promised. There's a couple of triple-digit buyers on the resume. And again, being named Barnes, Bob Baffert's longtime assistant, you expected a lot from this horse. But after the first 2 wins, just couldn't quite do it until yesterday, and did that pretty convincingly. Captain Cook, as you see, ran second there. But again, a well-beaten second. It was over 6 lengths from first to second. Captain Cook was clear of Owen Almighty, who was making second start after sitting off for much of the summer. Had the poor performance on, the quirky 7 furlong, 2 turns down at Charlestown, oh and almighty. So this was a little more normal, the 1 turn, 7 furlongs, and managed to run third, well beaten third, because again, there was a big gap first to second, second to third. But Barnes looked very good. Grade 1 Malibu at the end of the year. Wouldn't shock me. Southern California, grade 1 shot. The distance is likely to be right, so we'll see where this one goes next. But it was a nice performance, again, from Barnes, getting back to, as I say, that level of performance the horse promised at the beginning, really promised before the beginning of the year, because, as I say, when you saw the horse was named Barnes, they paid $3.2 million for the horse. There were high expectations before the horse even started, but then kind of lived up to it, breaking the maiden in the first start, wins the San Vicente in start number 2, then second in the San Felipe, 5th in the Santa Anita Derby, tried the Jerkins up at Saratoga and ran 3rd behind Patch Adams and Captain Cook, and then went down to Parks in the Gallant Bob, ran 4th. So you were, like I say, I was scratching my chin a little bit what to do with Barnes exactly, but came in with some good works and, as I say, rebounded to a more expected type of performance, given, again, all the background there, the price, the name, the first couple of starts. So Barnes back on track. And as I say, the Malibu seems like an interesting spot going forward. Also on the card yesterday at Keeneland was the Raven Run, the Perryville for the 3-year-old boys, the Raven Run for the 3-year-old fillies. Interesting field in here as well. I went with Ragtime. I've liked Ragtime throughout the career. Came in with 3 wins and a second in 4 starts. The most recent was a win in the Dogwood at Churchill. Bill Mott, Godolphin, Junior Alvarado on board. Betting public made that one the 6-5 favorite, Ragtime. But sneaking in from the AE list, it was Kappa Kappa. Only 3 starts under the belt, all at Parks for Butch Reed. Kappa Kappa, 2 wins in those 3 starts and a second. And who's on board but John Velasquez at 27-1. Running second was Vodka with a Twist. And you can see the late run from Ragtime in here to get third. It was just too late because by the time Kappa Kappa had gotten to the lead, there was no catching that one, particularly with fractions that weren't particularly blazing. So Ragtime was up a little bit against it with the closing effort from the back of the pack. But as I say, did get third. Close for first and second. Kappa Kappa, Vodka with a Twist. Vodka with a Twist is a horse that has been very competitive in stakes throughout the career. Came into yesterday with over $800,000 in the bank, 2 wins and 12 starts. But again, that $800,000 indicates this horse is hitting the board fairly often in stakes races, 9 in the money finishes and 12 starts. And again, most of the starts are stakes. So Vodka with a Twist, again, got away at 20-1, but ran well and ran as the horse typically does in stakes action in the mix. But Kappa Kappa was the eye-opener. Again, in only the 4th career start. Broke the maiden in the career debut with a 67 buyer figure. Second start of the career, optional claimer down at Parks, ran second with a 70 buyer. So we incrementally improved the buyer. And then in the 3rd career start at Parks, a front-end win, convincing 6-length win with a 90 buyer. So a nice buyer jump there. I have not seen the numbers yet for yesterday. Intrigued to see. But Kappa Kappa in the 4th career start puts a grade 2 on the resume. So that was a nice performance. And as I say, lucky to get there because had to sneak in from the AE list. First on the AE list, and there was 4 scratches. So did get in. But the interesting part of the story continues to be John Velasquez at Keeneland. Really the whole year. I mean, it's not just Keeneland. But at Keeneland, it's been kind of remarkable. This short meet, John Velasquez now has 11 wins at Keeneland. 6 of those are stakes races. Started out early in the meet, won the Alcibiades, the grade 1 Alcibiades with Tommy Joe. by DQ, but that was a $2.88 winner. Then won the Grade 1 Breeders' Futurity with Ted Noffey, $3.84. So he's getting it done. It's a little chalky, but he got a couple of Grade 1 wins early in the meet. Then the TCA Grade 2 of any wins with Praying, $21 and change, so helps the ROI a little bit there. Wins the ungraded Indian Summer with Schwarzenegger at $6.64. Then he wins the Grade 2 Sycamore just a little over a week ago at $70.90. And yesterday, he wins the Grade 2 Raven Run with Kappa Kappa at $56 and change. So 6 stakes, 5 graded stakes, and a $70 winner, a $56 winner, a $20 winner. And he has 38 starts at the meet. So you can kind of work out the ROI there. If you're a Johnny V fan and you're playing him down at Keeneland, you have had a very good meet. But again, just remarkable what he's done down there so far. The 11 wins. And last weekend, he was in New York on Saturday, won a stakes race in New York on Saturday, and then he wasn't at Keeneland on Sunday. I'm wondering if it was one of those situations where maybe missed a flight or whatever, but whatever the reason, he wasn't there. No rides. And I'm just looking, the top, he's currently number 4, tied for number 4, Tyler Gaffleon. He has 38 starts. Tyler has 90. They both have 11 wins. Again, John Velasquez with 38 starts, 11 wins. The leader down at Keeneland currently, Irad Ortiz, with 90 starts. So over 2 times as many starts. Irad has 17 wins. John Velasquez with 11. But again, the 6 stakes races and the prices, it's been remarkable to see that the Keeneland meet. Johnny V has been having, and congratulations there certainly on what's been a remarkable meet, and it's not over yet. So we'll see if we can add a couple. If you look up at the top board in the stakes race and see John Velasquez at 15, 20 to 1 or over, take your shot. Couldn't hurt. All right, let's move down. There were a couple of stakes races, part of that Sire Series down at Gulfstream yesterday for 2-year-olds. And I said it the last few weeks as we are approaching, the last couple of months of the season. It's always interesting to watch the 2-year-olds, and you may see some horses that are going to be intriguing to watch going forward. And in the Susan's Girl, this one for the 2-year-old fillies, there was a big favorite, Mythical, in here for Delgado. Jaramillo on board, was coming in off a poor performance in the Spinaway, but the 2 races before that were very good, both up at Saratoga, both stakes wins. Belmont stakes win weekend, beat the boys in the Tremont, and then followed that up winning the Adirondack at Saratoga early in August. Again, a little bit of a poor performance in the Grade 1 Spinaway, but comes down and takes all the action at 2-5 in the Susan's Girl yesterday, and it will be number 12, Mythical, getting it done pretty easily, as you can see here. The chart margin is 12 3/4 lengths. Maybe more remarkably, in that this horse is out in front by this margin, sets a stakes record here. And you can see it kind of gearing down late. So it was a big performance for Mythical. Betting public had it right. Love Like Lucy, the 5 runs second, Finding Strength runs third. They were the second and third choice in the wagering. So played out very logically, but the horse to watch coming out of this one is obviously Mythical, who is now 4 for 5 overall, 3 stakes victories, nice $200,000 purse there. And this is a series of races. There was, I think this was the second in the Sire Series. There's one more, and the connection said, they'll test the distance. So far, it's been all sprinting. The Tremont up at Saratoga, 5.5, then the Adirondack, 6.5. Tried the 7 in the Spinaway and didn't get it done that day. It did set some fast fractions, though, so there was an excuse there. But got it done at 7 yesterday in stakes record time. They'll try to stretch out. They say probably go to the My Dear Girl, which is the final portion of this series at the end of November. And again, a mile and a 16th there, but she's going to be worth watching going forward. Mythical, getting it done in, again, the Susan girl in the affirmed for the boys. It will be Kozolite getting it done. The favorite here as well, but unlike in the filly race, in the boys race, the favorite was a little more generous, 7-2. So you got $9.20 on Kozolite getting it done for Jose D'Angelo. Couple of starts so far. Second place finished at Gulfstream, then switched to the turf last time and broke the maiden, and then followed it up, getting back to the dirt at 7 furlongs. And again, wins pretty easily. Chart margin here is 4 lengths. Again, as the favorite, but a very lukewarm 7-2 favorite. Lionel Reyes on board, and they say they're definitely planning to head to the last leg of the Sire Series, the mile and a 16th, in reality, again, at the end of November. But a couple of 2-year-olds worth watching on the boys' side and the girls' side. Kozolite and, more importantly, I think Mythical, who looked really good in the girls' version of the Sire Stakes yesterday. All right, when we had Steve Bick on yesterday, we were talking a little bit Far Hills, one of the premier steeplechase meets of the year, and also a steeplechase meet you can bet on. And so there was some betting available yesterday. And we had talked a little bit about the highlight of the day, the Grand National. And we talked about Snap Decision, who 11 years old, an Eclipse champion steeplechase runner, came into this race off a 5th place finish, but it was the same race that last year the horse had run 3rd and then came back to really get a gutty win in the Grand National at Far Hills last year. This year, with 3 starts, a win, and a 2nd place finish prior to that 5th place finish in the most recent start. But Snap Decision comes in, 11 years old. Will Snap Decision get it done? One of the other horses we had talked about with Steve Bick was Zanahiyr, coming over for Gordon Elliott from Ireland, and it will be Zanahiyr getting it done. And you can see, I think we're going to include it here. We maybe passed it already. I think we're past it. But Snap Decision is going to run 4th and kind of on the inside there. Just got stymied late a couple of times and just gets caught at the wire. Snap Decision, coming around the final turn, there were cones on the inside kind of defining the course. And the cones also had flags coming up from, and it looked like Snap Decision kind of clipped one of those at a key spot in the race, making a move. And that didn't help his chances at all, because it seemed to kind of go back a little bit from that. And at that, the real running had kind of started. So that was a bad spot to run into trouble. But nice win for Zanahiyr. Again, coming over from Ireland for Gordon Elliott and getting it done yesterday in the Grand National. And again, if you watched any of the coverage or saw some of the pictures on social media or whatnot, looks like a fun day. I'd like to go down and experience it. Big crowd, lots of tailgating. And Steve Bick, when he was on yesterday, he's been a number of times, and we were saying, tailgating, it's kind of upscale tailgating, certainly. I think there's a mix in the crowd, but Larry Coleman is calling the races, did a good job again yesterday. So again, it's premier jump meet of the season, and tends to play into the Eclipse for steeplechase runners. This year it's going to be tough. I vote. Some people abstain. It's all horse racing. You can't look at the races and make a determination. But I will say I like steeplechase racing, so I always cast my vote. The category is going to be tough this year. There's no question about it. I don't think there's any dominant performer. And you can look at that yesterday, but it's coming from overseas. So the one race in the United States, it's going to be a tough category this year, certainly. All right. Wanted to show one more race before we take our break, and I mentioned it a couple times, I think. We had a fun day Monday out at the Finger Lakes, our annual October visit on their Steaks Day. A little chilly as compared to the last couple of years. It was gorgeous. We were out there with summertime weather, shorts, and it was just a couple of really great days. The same October Monday last year and the year before. This year, as we drove out, it was raining. The folks at Finger Lakes said they had rain overnight, but by the time we got to Finger Lakes itself, there was no rain, and that stayed away. It was overcast most of the day. Towards the end of the day, the sun peaked out a little bit, but it was fun. Nice crowd, good racing. There were 3 stakes races on the day, and again, we always appreciate the hospitality the folks at the Finger Lakes provide. But the highlight of the stakes action, there were a couple other nice stakes later on, but I definitely wanted to show, because again, 2-year-olds this time of year are fun to watch. I continue to say it. I say it all the time. If you have a nice New York bred, you have a lot of options. And I think we'll see this guy out in Open Stakes Company at some point. So far has been facing state breds, but in the New York Breeders' Futurity last Monday, it was Arctic Beast, who based down at Churchill for Mike Maker, but a New York bred, had broken the maiden in the first start at Saratoga, then went to the Aspirant, little stakes race, little $100,000 stakes race at Finger Lakes the end of September, returns to Finger Lakes on Monday for the $155,000 New York Breeders' Futurity. And as you can see here, wins pretty easily, just under 6 lengths is the chart margin. Party in the Army, who ran second there, the one horse, that one from Jeremiah Englehart will be definitely worth taking a look at as well. As I say, 6 lengths between first and second, but 4 lengths second and third. And I mentioned Party in the Army because that one got a horrible start. Way in the back of the pack at the start, just broke very poorly. And so to kind of come back and get up for second in there was a notable performance from that one. But in for the ride was Ricardo Santana. As I say, Mike Maker trains, had been training this one down at Churchill. And again, nice little New York bred, so they have all those New York bred stakes options they can look at the calendar for, but you'd have to think we'll see this one in some stakes action against Open Company at some point. I did not see the number for Monday, but the first couple of starts, 82 buyer, 85 buyer, so legit numbers for a 2-year-old this time of year, regardless of New York bred or not. So Arctic Beast, I just wanted to show that as I say. And then I was talking to some folks within the past couple of days and realized local connections. Congratulations to the breeding team, Rockridge Stud, but again, local connections involved as well. Saratoga Glen Farm and Beals Racing Stable, locally based, kind of out in the Stillwater area, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But within the greater Saratoga area for the breeders there. So again, nice job with Arctic Beast, certainly by Yao Pan. So you'd expect to be a little bit live, and clearly has been. Arctic Beast, one to keep our eyes on. I think yesterday, a couple of days, I said Arctic Blast. It was a blast to watch, but it's actually Arctic Beast getting it done, as I say. 3 for 3 now, and we'll see what's up next for that one. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, a little more on the news and notes side of things. And we also may do a little handicapping action as well. And as I say, a little bit later on, league lockdown. We'll have a few minutes of a preview of some of the NFL action coming up on this weekend also. So should be fun. Stay tuned.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
You know the time is now. What you waiting for? The time is now. Hear us knocking at the door. The time is now. Do you want to give them more when the time is now? You've seen the best now. You want the best when the time is now.
2025 Global Symposium on Racing. It's the premier networking event of the year. Connect with the who's who of racing. Collaborate face-to-face with key decision makers. Be a part of the international conversation. Discover the latest technology and innovation. Join us December 8th through 10th. Register at racingsymposium.com.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Seth Merrow in the studio, as always. Thanks for joining us. I mentioned yesterday a new twist on the American racing scene as far as conditions for races. We will have some ratings races now, which are commonplace overseas, not here. And essentially, horses are assigned a number, and then conditions are written for horses within a certain range. If you go to Equibase now and type in, I'm not sure it's every horse, but many horses. If you type in a name like Sovereignty on Equibase, where they pull up the page next to the horse's name, there'll be a number. That's his rating, his or her rating. And Santa Anita was kind of the first to put them on the overnight. They were listed as extras. I think the 24th card was the first card that has that potential to pull in an extra, and the entries aren't up yet. So we'll see if one of those makes it in. But I was interested. There was a Matt Hegarty article kind of going over this and, how it's going to play out, what the range was, and one of the races that they have listed in the condition book open to horses rated between 80 and 95, so there's a 15-point range. But then I was just interested, another race, horses 3 and older rated 70, 79, so a 9-point range. So I guess it'll depend on the particular condition of the race and age of the horses and whatnot, what the range might be. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, though. And as Hegarty says, first time this has been used in the United States, heavily used in foreign racing jurisdictions. Although, and I mentioned this yesterday, most of those jurisdictions rely on, and I'm quoting here, human handicapping experts to determine the ratings. And usually there is a panel that essentially puts the ratings on. This is all going to be based on an algorithm generated by Equibase. The rating, according to the Hegarty article, is calculated using 12 factors that are grouped under 3 definitions: a performance score, race strength adjustments, in other words, essentially the competition and track and distance adjustments, taking into account post position, ground covered, how fast and slow the track was playing. Hegarty goes on and says, unlike a variety of figures already available to handicappers, the ratings are not intended to measure a single performance, but rather assign a horse a number assessing its overall quality. And so essentially they're trying to put a number to the horse's talent that would bring together a field in a particularly conditioned race of similar competitive horses. And as they say, it'll be interesting to see. Equibase is being pretty transparent. I think you can go and learn more about the actual algorithm on their website, perhaps. I know they said they were going to release it, and there's some of the factors in the you can read the Hegarty article, the Daily Racing Forum. He goes into it as well. But it'll be interesting to see. As I say, they're currently extras in the condition book, which means if a certain race doesn't fill that's not an extra, then they'll pull races in from the extras list. And so we'll see if we get one in the next week or so. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out, and if it does become something that becomes an attractive part of the scene. At this point, I think it's still a little bit up in the air. Breeders' Cup, mentioned it earlier a couple of times with maybe some of the performances that we've seen really in the last couple of weeks. I mentioned earlier with the Breeders' Cup this weekend, a little light maybe on the stakes action, although they were all nice performances. But that's because we're a couple weeks away from the Breeders' Cup itself. But Wednesday, October 22nd, 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon time, our time, the pre-entries will be announced, which will give you some ideas. Some horses may be cross-entered, and so it's not set in stone at that point, but those are the horses that are aiming for it. Typically later in the day, a set of pre-entry past performances come out. So you can start digging in. It looks like come Wednesday, again, the pre-entries announcement will be noontime, our time here on the East Coast. So Wednesday, it gets serious. Breeders' Cup. Looking forward to it. I'm sure everybody is. They put out earlier this week the post times and the television schedule. They're kind of bouncing around. If you have Peacock, the streaming service, you're covered. You can watch everything on Peacock. Other than that, bouncing around between USA, a number of the major races will be on NBC on Saturday. But again, then it's bouncing between Peacock and USA, although the Breeders' Cup has said, I believe their YouTube channel is also covering everything. So you won't have to miss any action if you don't have Peacock and you can't bounce around. There are platforms to watch, and obviously fire up your Capital OTB wagering app, and you can watch there. Certainly, we are limited as every year in the number of races we can show on Breeders' Cup card because NBC typically has things kind of locked up. But again, there are plenty of options, including, as I mentioned earlier, coming down here to the Clubhouse Racebook. We have the signal on throughout the day, obviously, and you can come in and reserve a seat if you'd want to. Again, still some seats left here at the Racebook for Breeders' Cup Saturday. The kind of notable thing that had people on social media too, some people were a little exercised about it. But Friday is Halloween, October 31st. And there's a number of races. They start the day early and move on throughout the day. On the East Coast, the day will start at 2:35 and end at 8:25. And that's the end is the portion, the last few races, 6:25, 7:05, 7:45, 8:25. And some people have said, it's Halloween. And I get it. Other people are like scoffing, Halloween versus but I get if people have kids, you're either taking your kids out for Halloween or you're answering the door and handing out candy when some of these races are going. So I get it that people are like, couldn't they have waited a week? I also get that there are a lot of moving parts. And so that I'm sure they're trying to pick the best spot and the best spot to get the right coverage and whatnot. So I get it from both sides of things, but some people, as I say, were scoffing at the Halloween people, but I get it. If you have kids, it's a thing. But, there are replays, there are other ways to watch, and so I'm sure everybody will make their way through it. But another reason for consternation was on Saturday, given that it's on the West Coast, the Breeders' Cup Classic will be race number 9, and there will be 3 Breeders' Cup races after that, 10, 11, and 12. After the Classic, the Breeders' Cup Mile, the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, and the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. The Breeders' Cup itself, East Coast time, 6:26. And a lot of people, and I get it, it's your big race of the year, and it should probably be at the end of the program. But as I say, I think Breeders' Cup, and more importantly, maybe television, are working out their logistics. And on a Saturday, NBC has college football contracts and whatnot. So I kind of get the situation. But I also get the argument that it is the highlight and probably is a little more comfortable in the last spot. But all of that said, when we get to the East Coast, I think we don't have. And you would think with the opening of Belmont, they will be at Belmont sooner rather than later. And probably you would think Belmont comes regularly in the rotation. So when it's there, I don't think we have to worry about that last race scenario. I think it will just automatically work out in that fashion. But on the West Coast, you kind of have to, as I say, work with the logistics you are handed, given that you're looking for network exposure, and the networks have this time of year maybe other priorities. They also have to work into the mix. So it is what it is, though, and it's always a great day coming up sooner rather than later. Breeders' Cup, again, with the pre-entries this week, and you can go out and look and see, because, as I say, that TV schedule came out earlier this week. You can check that out yourselves. Just before I go to one more break, let me go over where we are currently with trainers and jocks down at Belmont at Aqueduct, because I thought the jockeys battle was a little bit interesting. Leading jockey, Belmont at Aqueduct meet, Manny Franco, and pretty easily at this point. 35 wins, Ricardo Santana 27, Kendrick Carmouche 22, Flavian Prat 21, and Dylan Davis 19. There's your top 5. But again, an 8-win gap from Manny Franco to Ricardo Santana. And on the trainers side of things, Chad Brown sitting with 21 wins, Linda Rice 17, Mike Maker with 13. On the trainer and jockey side of things, there's an update for you down at Belmont at the Big A, as I say, in this fall meet. All right, let's take one more break. We'll come back and maybe jump in and do a little bit of handicapping before we hand it off to League Lockdown. But all of that right after this. Stay tuned.
You know the time is now. What you waiting for? The time is now. Hear us knocking at the door. The time is now. Do you want to give them more when the time is now? You've seen the rest now. You want the best, but the time is now.
The 2025 Global Symposium on Racing. It's the premier networking event of the year. Connect with the who's who of racing. Collaborate face-to-face with key decision makers. Be a part of the international conversation. Discover the latest technology and innovation. Join us December 8th through 10th. Register at racingsymposium.com.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Jump in here, do a little late pick for Belmont at the Big A before we wrap it up. Also, I was mentioning earlier, Breeders' Cup. You can come down here and watch at the Clubhouse Racebook, obviously. And again, seats are available. Don't forget, though, you can go to any of our branches. The Easy Bets and whatnot, signals up at all of those as well. We'll have the Breeders' Cup simulcast signal coming straight from Del Mar. So again, you can watch it all of the OTB locations and enjoy, as well as our online platform and whatnot. It should be a good weekend. Looking forward to it. Friday and Saturday. As I say, sooner rather than later. And the pre-entries come out Wednesday. Pick up your PPs and start digging in midweek. All right, Belmont, the Big A today. And again, haven't seen scratches yet, but we'll give you some ideas on the late pick 4. That includes a stake in race number 6, the Carl Place, 6 furlongs on the grass. I went 6-5, 9, and 1, spiced up on top. Won the Mahoney 2-back in fine fashion with a 94 buyer, and then went down and tried to turf sprint stake, a grade 1 down at Kentucky Downs. Some horses just do not take to that track, and I'm thinking that's the situation here. I think the Belmont runner for Juddmonte gets back on track with the return to New York. No evidence. Third in the Mahoney, behind Spiced Up in the most recent effort from Miguel Clement. Now a little time off. The Dean Reeves and Company horse looks absolutely playable as well. And then we go to Ford Steel, who comes out of a stake at Kentucky Downs at a mile, a stake at Gulfstream at a mile before that. This one's maybe a little bit interesting for Safi Joseph. I would expect a little bit of value here, but the cutback to 6 furlongs, cutbacks aren't as potent on grass, but I certainly think is an interesting player with the situation there, cutting back off. Again, a couple of nice number races, and you go further down the page, there are a couple of turf sprints that were okay. So, again, if you're looking for an alternative, the 9's interesting. 6th race, the Carl Place, 6-5, 9, and 1. The 7th race, the Noble Damsel, a mile on the grass for Phillies and Mayors. I'm 7-3, 1, and 5. We'll put tax implications on top. It's Chad, it's Klarovich. Comes off a stakes. It comes off a win last time, optional claimer up at Saratoga. That was the second start after laying off late spring, early summer, a little bit of a layoff. So 2 starts under the belt, 2 pretty good starts. Should continue that today. Sparkle Blue. This is a horse that early in the career really had some promise. 7 wins and 25 starts, but no wins this year. As I say, early in the career had some promise, and 1.1 million in the bank kind of indicates that. This year, maybe not so much, but I think this horse has a pretty good opportunity. I had that one actually down in 3rd. So tax implications on top, Sparkle Blue in the 3rd spot. I juggled up Sparkle Blue a few times, but I wound up putting Edict, the number 3, in between those two. Dave Donkrunner with Kendra Carmouche on board comes in off a 2nd place finish in a stake in New York, but tends to show some early speed. Speed's always dangerous, and if that one can get out there and kind of settle in a little bit on the front, Edict could be very dangerous in the late running to run down. So in the 7th, Belmont at the Big A, 7, 3, 1, and 5. 8th race, Belmont at the Big A, 6, 5, 3, and 2. Number 6, Man and Finance. Randy Hill, Danny Gargan, Delphi, interesting group, interesting ownership group here. Danny Gargan trains, lightly raced. Seasonal debut was up at Saratoga. I raced a couple times last year, showed a little promise, and the comebacker was okay. I would expect this horse, with that experience now under the belt and a little time to, bounce back. Man and Finance looks good. Longpour also lightly raced, going off for Steve Asmussen off a couple of good tries. Broke the main at Saratoga. 2nd in a similar event last time down here at Belmont at Aqueduct. So put that one in your thoughts. And Crescendo's Reign, also lightly raced, also with a couple of nice efforts. Similar scenario for my top 3. The 8th, Belmont at the Big A, 6, 5, 3, and 2. And in the 9th race, the 9th and final Belmont at the Big A, also stakes action, the Autumn Days, 6 furlongs on the grass, 9, 8, 7, and 6. Tupi on top. Comes up from Laurel off a stakes win for Graham Motion. Seems in good form. Don't look back at all. A couple of clunks that bookend a pretty good start for Miguel Clement. So this one's been a little bit inconsistent for West Point and Company, but on a best effort, clearly belongs in the mix here. Life, Love, and Laughter in the 3rd spot. Comes up from Laurel for Mike Trombetta and has been running very well with a win streak broken last time. Had come in to the last race with 3 wins. Ran 2nd in the latest, though, so in good form as well. In the 9th and final, Belmont at the Big A, 9, 8, 7, and 6. And as I say, didn't have a chance to see any scratch. I don't even know if they're up at this point, although we're getting close. So usually by 11 scratches are up, but I didn't see those. So, make your notes accordingly. All right, I'm going to wrap it up for Racing Across America. on this Sunday morning. Don't forget, we'll be back in a couple hours, probably a little less than that. No, probably more like an hour and a half. Back for OTB Live for a Sunday afternoon. Last week there was the storm down in New York, so no racing last Sunday, Belmont at the Big A, but they're back today. We'll also have some Keeneland as they wrap up their penultimate week of racing. So I'll take a look at those two tracks. We'll have more on the network this afternoon, so make sure to tune in for that. But stay tuned. We'll go to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, the inaugural edition of League Lockdown with Anthony Probst, taking a look at some of the NFL action for this afternoon. So looking forward to, as I say, the kickoff of League Lockdown. We'll take a break first. I'm going to wrap up Racing Across America. Stay tuned, however, for a little NFL conversation right after this break. And again, I'll be back in an hour or so for OTB Live for a Sunday afternoon. See you then.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Haven't signed up for a Capital OTB account yet? Now's the time to take advantage of the sign-up bonus. Open up a new account with $200 or more, bet $400 by the end of the month, and receive a bonus $200 into your account. Plus, you can take advantage of everything an OTB account has to offer. Wagering from any device, live streaming, racing info, past performances, online promotions, and more. Sign up today and take advantage of the new account bonus. Details at capitalotb.com.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
10 days prior, Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to League Lockdown, brought to you by Capital OTB. I'm Anthony Probst, and I'm going to be previewing every NFL game we got going on this Sunday. But first, we got to take a look back at that Thursday night shootout between Aaron Rodgers with the Steelers and Joe Flacco with the Bengals. Now, that game was a massive, massive shock and upset because just 10 days prior, Joe Flacco made the trade from Cleveland to Cincy. Now, trading within the division is definitely a bit weird, in my opinion, but that game was absolutely spectacular, lights out. First game of the day, though, here on Sunday, we're over across the pond with the game that should be in the middle of, if not getting close to the end of the third quarter, with the Jags and the Rams. Now, Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua did end up getting ruled out for this game on Friday, so we'll have to see how Matt Stafford and the Rams end up finishing out against Trevor Lawrence and the Jags. Starting at the 1 o'clock games, though, coming up, we got the Saints and the Bears, the Dolphins and the Browns, the Raiders and the Chiefs, Eagles and the Vikings, Panthers, Jets, Patriots, Titans. 4 o'clock spot, we rounded out with Broncos, Giants, Colts, Chargers, Packers, Cardinals, Commanders, Cowboys. And then Sunday Night Football, we got the 49ers and the Falcons. And then Monday night, now here's the interesting part. Monday night, it's not a doubleheader, it's back-to-back. One right after the other with the Lions and the Bucks going first, then followed up by the Texans and the Seahawks. And I know the biggest thing that has been plaguing a lot of teams this season is massive upsets with injuries. However, with the 49ers, them taking on the Falcons Sunday night, with the Falcons been playing pretty decently and the 49ers having a couple issues. Brock Purdy was limited in practice on Thursday. Not sure if he ended up getting ruled out for this game. We'll see if Mac Jones ends up making the full start Sunday night or if Brock Purdy gets cycled in. Bears running back DeAndre Swift also limited on practice on Thursday, so we'll have to see if the Saints game, if he ends up making a surprise appearance or if he ends up just sitting out and being on IR. Now, this is what's going to plague the Detroit defense. Baker Mayfield and the 49ers, they get back the wide receiver one. I said the 49ers, the Tampa Bay Bucks. That's who Baker Mayfield is the QB for. They get their wide receiver one, Mike Evans, back. He did return to practice on Thursday. So we'll see if he also ends up getting activated for this game. I have good feeling that he should be good to go, but we'll have to keep it in mind because that Bucks offense is going to be in some big trouble here because Detroit, I know you all are going to be happy. The D tackle, Alim McNeil, finally returning from hamstring injury, makes his season debut Monday night. Oh, man, that's going to be one game for the ages. And then J.J. McCarthy, status still unknown as of right now. So we'll have to see if he ends up coming back against the Eagles or if it's going to continue to be Carson Wentz playing for the Vikings and quarterbacking. And then Dallas. I know you all are going to be so happy because with Dak Prescott, despite the record playing MVP caliber football, CeeDee Lamb is back in action. He'll be good to go for this game on Sunday afternoon against the Commanders. And games of the weekend. Now, my first process, Baker Mayfield, who's been playing lights out against the Detroit Lions, and I think Jared Goff, he's willing and ready to get his mojo back after that Chiefs game. So I think that's going to be the first game of the weekend. And now this one might, I don't want to say shock some people, but might be a little interesting. Colts Chargers. Now the reason why Colts Chargers is because both Justin Herbert and Daniel Jones have been playing absolutely lights out. Despite the Colts taking a little bump in the road, going 2 losses after a 3-game win streak and then getting 1 game back. And then Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, as I like to call him, playing lights out football. So that's definitely going to be a highlight. And now this one is really going to shock some people. I think the Patriots-Titans is going to be a great game to call the game of the weekend because Monday, the Titans fired their head coach. So with that, I think that might play a factor into how well Cam Ward and the offense get off, as well as try and stop Drake May and the Patriots offense, who are coming off a 3-game win streak going into this game on Sunday afternoon. So call me crazy, but those are the 3 games of the weekend, in my opinion. And best way to watch those games, come down here to Clubhouse Racebook and our food vendor and our partner, Black Bear. Come watch all the football action, grab some lunch, watch the horses run as well. And out here in the clubhouse, we have a board contest where you put your initials up twice. You guess the games, the one game that we have going on that we end up showing. You get the score right by halftime. You get a $20 food voucher. And then you get the final score right. You get a free jersey. It's all great action here down in Clubhouse Racebook. Get some food, watch the football action, watch the horse racing action, all here every Sunday, 7-Eleven Central Avenue in Albany. Thank you all for tuning in here. I will see you all next week, and don't forget to stay locked in.
We'd like to thank Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine open now through December, featuring great racing, including the King's Plate coming up in August, Turf Champions Day with the Woodbine Mile in September, and much, much more. Woodbine Racing, great racing north of the border.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.